Hello, everyone, and welcome to our podcast, Victim to Survivor. I am so excited and honored to have Abby, my co host, tell her story to us today. And I have a very personal and very special connection to Abby. Abby is actually one of the first parents. Abby, you are one of the first parents that
Yeah.
I met way back in the late 90s, I believe.
Yeah.
We met, and I at that time was still a little bit skeptical about the whole parent thing. Any parent involved in abduction on either side, I I was a little judgy. Like, you guys had to prove yourselves a little bit to
Of
me.
course. Yeah.
Yes. And boy, has Abby, boy, have you proved yourself a million times over. And that was such a long time ago. I'm in such a different space, and it's just so wonderful. Abby, you are one of the pioneers in bringing family abduction to the media, bringing resources to those of us who've experienced this, especially parents, but also kids, family members, everybody. Hi, Kitty.
He's
And
going to be doing that. So,
absolutely, and I have two cats. They'll be doing that as well.
yeah.
Yeah, there are like our fuzzy furry support hosts
Yeah.
as well. So, Abby, without further ado, I just want to say you mean so much to me, and you mean so much to thousands of people out there. Your warmth, your approachability, your openness, your kindness, your nurturing, your expertise, Team Hope, NCMEC, all the other things that you're involved with, all the countless people who've told me, "Oh, do you know Abby Podash? I know, of course I know Abby Podash, and oh, she means so much to me. She talked to me when I was first going through this, or she means so much because I met her here, and she helped normalize this whole thing for me and tapped me into resources that I needed. And you are the Bubby of me and of so many of us. You're still very young, but Bubby is grandma in Yiddish, and there's just something so warm about you and so approachable and wonderful. And you've meant so much to me. You mean so much to me. That's why I'm doing a podcast with you. And I am so excited to hear your story. As I mentioned to you privately, I don't really know all the details of your story. I don't know the whole trajectory. I know generally what you went through, and I know sort of, we'll call it sort of the elevator pitch, so to speak. Not that we can reduce anybody's personal story to that, but I mean, I know sort of the bare bones, and I am very honored and very excited to learn more about what you went through in more detail. So without further ado, Abby, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sarah. Thanks for that beautiful introduction. And I feel the same about you. Um, so, when did my story begin? Uh, that's a good question. Anyway, I think when I was 35 years old, I met and married my son's father. So I was older. I had already had a child who was, I think he was 14 at the time, and uh, I didn't expect to have another one, but to my wonderful surprise, at 38 years old, I was pregnant with my second son, and there was a 17-year gap between my kids.
Wow.
I was just so excited to have a child, and it was like a new lease on life for me. Unfortunately, my relationship with my son's father really became worse and worse. And when by the time that Sam was 8 years old in 1996, we filed for a divorce, and it was a very contentious divorce. It was horrific, and I was granted primary custody of Sam, and his father had visitation. And I'm not going to go into any details about the divorce because for the sake of focusing on the abduction, just let's just say that it was horrific. And so he had visitation with Sam, and on a weekend in July 21st, 1997, he had Sam for the weekend. And at the time, Sam was going to camp, summer camp, a day camp. And his father was to drop him off at the bus stop, which was actually at the Y in Wayne, New Jersey. And Sam would pick up the bus from there and then be dropped off. So I went to pick Sam up uh, at the bus stop at the Y. And I got there and went inside to the Y because he used to love to play basketball. And I went in, and everyone knew us there. And of course, they loved Sam. He was the most adorable little boy. And so he would go and play basketball and wait for me, one of his favorite things. And so I went in, and the woman at the desk there said, "He's not here. He wasn't dropped off." And she said, "Well, maybe he just scooted in and I didn't see him." So I went and I looked for him on the basketball court, and I had someone check in the locker rooms. I looked everywhere in the Y, and he wasn't there. And I went back to the desk and I called his father, and no one answered. And he had done this to me a couple of times before, where he wouldn't return Sam when he was supposed to. And I thought, okay, he's just playing games with me. That's all. But then I started getting nervous. So I started calling around to the hospitals. I called some of his father's relatives to see if they had heard anything. And no one knew anything. And someone said, you should call the police. The police, I mean, I was just in shock. And so I called the police where I lived, in this tiny little town that was just 1 square mile in New Jersey. And they said, "Well, you have to report where he was missing from. So you need to call the police in his where his father lived, that jurisdiction." So I called that police station, and that was a much bigger city, much bigger than where I lived. And they said, "No, you can't report him here." And I went back and forth between the two police stations, which seemed forever. And finally, the police station where I lived said that they would take the report. And in retrospect, I'm so glad that they did, because they were much smaller and Sam would get more attention than in a big city.
Right.
So I drove to the police station, which was, I don't even remember how far it was, but it was at least a half an hour away. Through my tears and through my fear, I drove to that police station and started to file a report. And then I said, you know what? Maybe his father's only playing tricks on me and he'll bring him back. So I said, I'll come back in the morning if he's not home. And so I went back to my home, and my sister, who lived relatively close to me, came over, and I couldn't close the front door. I kept it open because I knew any minute he would be walking in. I kept picking up the phone because I thought, oh, it must be out of order because nobody's calling me. And that was before I didn't even have a cell phone then. I did have an answering machine, but no cell phone. And there was no call. He didn't come home. So I went to the police station, back to the police station first thing in the morning, then filed the missing report, and then went to my office. I worked for attorneys at the time. And I spoke to the real estate paralegal because I wanted to know who owned the apartment where his father lived. So she was able to tell me, and it turned out that it was this wonderful man who owned the shoe repair store in our little town. And I called him, and he started telling me how worried he was about Sam's dad, because he was His behavior was erratic. He didn't pay his rent, and he was very worried. He was
Mhm.
so worried that he told me to come and get the key so I could go into the apartment. Now, I knew that wasn't okay to do, but you're talking about a mother who was searching for her child, and that's like a mama bear, which you cannot stop. Um, which step back for a minute, I just want everyone to know I was so shy. I was afraid of my own shadow.
Mhm.
I was intimidated. I was not the person I was after I found out that my son was missing. You couldn't hold me back. Although I couldn't stop crying, everything was done through my tears. I found a strength I didn't know I had. So I got the key from this wonderful man. I went to the apartment. I opened the door and there was nothing there. He
Mhm.
had taken everything. The apartment was empty except for garbage and a long folding table with all brochures about Mexico. So I called the police and they
Mhm.
came to the apartment and the investigation started.
Mhm.
I knew that that was, all those brochures were a ruse. I knew he wouldn't go to Mexico. I knew he wouldn't go somewhere where he couldn't understand the language. But what he didn't realize was how helpful it was because this um, uh, kind of insinuated that he was leaving the country. And
Mm.
because he was leaving the country, it was easier for me to file a police report and to get a warrant for his arrest.
Mm.
So
Wow.
he didn't realize he was doing that, but it really helped with the investigation.
Wow.
So that's when everything started, and I had to go to law enforcement. I had to talk to the prosecutor. I had to convince a grand jury that this was not right, that this wasn't about him being with his dad. This was really about him being taken from his whole life.
Mhm.
And thankfully, I was able to convince them. So a warrant was issued for his dad's arrest. And
Can
because,
I ask?
yeah,
I'm so sorry. Can I just ask how long after the abduction were you able to get that warrant?
it wasn't that long. Of course, every minute seemed like a year,
Of course.
um, because I was so worried about Sam, especially after talking to his landlord and him telling me that he wasn't in his right mind.
Mhm.
Um, but I think it only took anywhere from a couple of weeks to a month to
Okay.
get that
I just
warrant,
got it.
which of course is too long.
Yeah.
But what this enabled the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children to do, and
Mm.
other organizations to put to get the flyer, the missing flyer,
Yeah.
the poster, and
Yeah.
put his father's picture on there too. Without the warrant, I would not have been able to do that.
Right.
And it's more likely that people would recognize an adult than a child.
Exactly.
So that helped with the search.
Right.
So uh, what was the next? The next step was trying to find him. I knew that someone had seen him and I wanted to reach that person. So
Mhm.
I had a computer that my older son had given me. Now, this was in 1997. So computers are rather new. And so he gave me his old computer. He
Mhm.
helped me build a website for Sam, which was
Wow.
called findsam.com.
Mhm.
And on the website, there was a page that had all different pictures of Sam, and then
Mhm.
another page that had all different pictures of his dad,
Mhm.
which was much easier for law enforcement to tell people go to this website to see if you recognize them because of the different poses. And there was also a beautiful message from my older son, who was 27 at the time. Sam was 10 years old.
Mhm.
And just, I thought it was important to have him on there to show that the impact of what was
Mhm.
happening, that Sam was taken away from him too.
Mhm.
And there were, now this, remember, this was 1997. There were
Mhm.
over 300,000 people who went to that website. There were over 30,000 people who gave me their email addresses to keep them updated on what was happening. There were people all over the country who wanted to help, who I had the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children's poster on there. They downloaded that poster, and his there was a much wider reach to people
Yeah.
um, that I could not have done myself. And
Mhm.
the help of strangers was amazing, just
Mhm.
amazing. It was hard to get help from other law enforcement agencies because they didn't take this seriously. Thankfully, the detective that was assigned to Sam took it seriously because
Mhm.
his wife had been married before and she had
Mhm.
a child, and
Mhm.
her ex-husband took their child just for overnight though, but he had a taste of it and what it was
Wow.
like, and he knew it was wrong.
Wow.
So he didn't know, he'd never had a case like this before. So he
Mhm.
didn't know what was, happening, but he had the passion to
Wow.
work on the case and to find out everything he could about trying to find a missing child.
Mhm.
Um, I I started reaching out to all the agencies, and it was heartbreaking because every single missing child agency had their own application that you had to fill out, and every one, it broke my heart. It was so hard because I had to go through the story all over again from the beginning.
Mhm.
Um, I was reaching out to anyone and everyone to get that poster out. I went to air shows and would give the flyers out to the pilots, take them where your next stop is. I contacted truckers. I contacted, like just even pizza parlors to give out a flyer with every box of pizza. That's all I wanted to do was get his picture out there. I was working for an attorney and who was a very, very kind man.
Mhm.
And he actually helped me through the divorce too. He was amazing.
Mhm.
I called him Solomon, and
Oh. Mhm.
because he really helped me understand um, the perspective of Sam's dad also, and it helped me be more balanced, which unfortunately didn't help much, but it helped me because I didn't want to be angry. I knew that if I was angry, it would just like eat up all my energy, and I needed that energy to help to find Sam.
Wow.
So I just wanted the poster out there to reach everyone that I could, and I was so grateful to the people that did help me. At the same time, the people I knew personally were having a hard time being with me because I couldn't stop crying. I
Mhm.
I just I did what I had to do, but I couldn't stop crying.
Mhm.
I had Sam's cat at the time.
Oh.
She was a crazy cat. I mean, we called her Linda Blair. That's how crazy she was. But she would come up and put her little paws on my shoulder and lick the tears. And I thought, oh, she's being so kind. But then I realized my tears have salt in it and they probably tasted good to her. But at the time, it felt pretty good to have a
I'm
cat.
I'm I'm gonna go with the more magnanimous because perspective because I love cats so much. I'm gonna give her the benefit of the doubt and think that Linda Blair was feeling very empathetic.
Yes. I
Wow.
like to think that too. Um,
Sorry, I just had to add that in there.
yeah,
This is
that's fine. Yeah, she was quite the cat. And so, oh my gosh, let me see. Let me collect my thoughts for a second. Where am I? Um, so the police were, my local police were very kind and really wanted, they really wanted to help. But I wasn't getting that help from anywhere else. Although the sheriff's office in the town where his father lived assigned a detective to me, and
Mm,
she was amazing. She contacted me every day. She worked really hard
mm,
on trying to find him.
mm,
Um, the whole time that he was missing, I was worried that it was going to be a crime of passion, that if his father couldn't have him, no one could.
mm,
But I couldn't tell that to anybody because I
mm.
didn't want them to think that I was an irrational woman.
Right.
Um, what I didn't realize was that they were worried about the same thing and they were afraid to tell me.
Mm,
So, I was just so worried. I didn't know if he was being well taken care of. I knew he was with a father who um, was having some mental health issues. And so I
mhm,
didn't know if he would be well taken care of. I didn't know if he got hurt, would he take him to the hospital or would he
mm,
be too afraid that he would be found out? Did they have a place to live? Did they have a roof over their head? And I knew he had money
mm,
because before the abduction, we had saved about $40,000 for Sam's
mm,
college,
mm,
and his father took all that money. And when I found out that he took it, um, I think that's what speeded up the abduction
mm,
because he was afraid that I had found out. So he had $40,000 in cash with him. He had new identities. They had, which I found out later, but he had a death certificate for the mother, and he had identities for himself and for Sam, changed their names,
mm.
and he was telling everyone that I was deceased. Sam knew I wasn't, and but it was really hard for him to have to tell people, which I think you can kind of relate to. Once
Mhm.
people hear your story, they'll
Oh,
understand
yeah.
that. I think,
It's
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
What is it, the 4Ds, where the taking parent will tell the child either that their searching parent is deceased, or that
Just
they're disinterested, they don't care about them
mhm,
anymore, or
mhm.
that they are dangerous,
Right?
or that they are what's the fourth one?
Fourth one, the 4th D. I have it on the like,
I
I
know, I have it
looked
somewhere too.
at
I can't remember what it is. So
I
either
can look it
dead,
up.
disinterested, dangerous, or oh, they didn't say anything. They just would not say anything about the other parent and what's
Oh,
happening.
right, right.
And of
Ignore the
course,
whole thing as
yeah,
right. They
and
don't exist.
right. And
Yeah,
then the child is not going to question anything because they're with a person that they trust.
right.
And they're so afraid also that they're going to go along with whatever the taking parent says.
Yep, I can testify to that.
Yeah, I know you can. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Oh.
I would get up as early as possible, maybe 3 o'clock in the morning, go into my office, which was at least a half an hour away, was a law office,
Mm,
put in my 8 hours, and then come home
mm.
to work on the search for Sam. That's all I wanted to do. That's all I could concentrate on. And then a couple of months in, I was so tired from doing that that I fell asleep at the wheel on the way
Oh,
to work.
No,
Thankfully,
Abby.
I woke up before anything bad happened. I did go off
Mm.
the road,
Wow.
but I was okay. And I went into my office and I said, I can't do this anymore. And I'm very grateful they laid me off.
Mm.
So I was able to just full time try and find Sam. I tried everything. I reached out to everyone. I actually got to the Super Bowl and almost had Sam's picture flashed there, but it unfortunately it didn't work out. But I was
Wow.
trying everything to get his
Mm.
picture out there,
Yeah.
and I guess you could say I was obsessed over it. People
Mm.
stopped visiting me,
Mm.
stopped contacting me because it was too hard for them. They didn't know what to do, and it broke their hearts to see me so upset.
Yeah.
But then I was isolated.
And you were isolated.
I had my sister who would help me, but she too was suffering
Mhm.
because her nephew was missing.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
know, it wasn't just my family. You know, people
Mm.
don't think about this, but my ex-husband's family was suffering too. They didn't know where he was. They
Wow.
didn't know um, uh, where their grandson or their nephew or their cousin was either. We were suffering on both sides, both
Mhm.
families.
Mm.
His classmates at school had to
Mhm.
look at an empty desk, an empty
Mm.
chair, wondering where is he? His
Right.
nephew, who was 2.5 years older, was having nightmares
Oh.
that his uncle was going to come and take him next.
Oh.
The people in the community, I mean, the kids in the community, oh my gosh, Sarah, they would come knock at my door and with their hands like this with full of change
Oh.
and they were washing cars and doing whatever they could to raise money to help find their friend.
Oh.
It was
Wow.
it impacts so many people. You know, that's one of the things I want people to understand
Yeah.
how many people it really impacts. It impacted the police. Like, how dare somebody come into my town and take one of my children? You
Oh.
know, and yeah, so it was a hard time for me, and to say the least.
Mm.
I felt like my heart was ripped out.
Mm.
So worried about him, not knowing anything. Leads would come in, and police were afraid to tell me about the leads because they didn't want to get my hopes up or upset me.
Mm.
In the meantime, I knew Sam's dad. I knew his habits, and I
Mm.
would have been able to help them, but their mindset was, we can't upset her more.
Oh.
So there was
Wow.
this miscommunication,
Mhm.
and I wish they would have relied on me to help them because that that would have helped me too. Because the only
Mhm.
time I felt strong was when I was doing something to help find Sam.
Right.
If I didn't have anything to do, honestly, I think I would have been in the corner rocking and drooling.
Mm.
Um, I needed to do something, and
Yeah.
when they say, "Oh, go home and sit by the telephone," that's the worst thing you can tell a
Mhm.
parent when their child is missing,
Mhm.
because inside your nerves are just running. If you
Mhm.
haven't been really really stressed about something, you
Mhm.
inside you're just running, and if you're
Mm.
just sitting and not doing anything,
The
that's
worst.
yeah, it is. It's the
Yeah.
worst.
Yeah.
Um, so I did have the help of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children,
Right.
and back in 97, 98, they had the card that that would go out with the junk mail, where it was the "Have you seen me" card, and they would have a picture of the child and the abductor if known.
Right.
So in December, around the holidays, they they disseminated that card across the country. I don't even know how many, but I think hundreds of thousands with the junk mail.
Wow. So this is July, August, September, October, November, December, like five months in.
December, yeah, yeah,
Right.
around
Yeah.
there.
Right.
Um, so he had a cousin in Texas who she got the card. Now, she was very distanced from the family and wasn't really in touch, so she didn't know what was happening. She got this card and she didn't really ever look at the cards, but for some reason, she asked her husband to get her glasses so she could see, and there she recognized her cousin. She
Wow.
didn't know about Sam, but she
Yeah.
recognized her cousin. So she contacted the family. They told her what was going on, and she actually contacted me. And she
Wow.
said if there was ever anything she could do, she would.
Wow.
So, um, fast forward through all the horrific days and minutes and hours where he was missing and all the everything. Anyway, in March, she gets a phone call.
The cousin in Texas.
The cousin in Texas, she gets a phone call from Sam's dad saying that he and Sam are in the area and can he come and visit? What was
Oh.
happening was, so he had $40,000, right?
Mhm.
He spent it in the short time, and I think he had $5,000 left. So he was running out of money. He was scared. He didn't know what to do. Um, right before that, he had somehow gotten this book, a real thick book. Yeah, the reason I know is because after Sam was recovered, the FBI gave me all of the belongings, and that book was in there. And it was a book of communes all across the country.
Oh, wow.
So he had contacted one of those communes in Texas and had gone from California, where they were in Sacramento, to Texas to join the commune.
Oh
But when
my
he got
God.
there, they wouldn't take him. And it's a little unclear the reason. He told Sam it was because they didn't want children, but he would have known that before he went.
Mhm.
I think because they saw that he was not in his right mind.
Mhm. Yeah.
So he didn't know what else to do. I guess he was starting to get scared. He called his cousin and not thinking that she wouldn't know what was happening. And at that point, Sam would have said anything because he was so scared. Because to go back a little bit, when that card came out, they
Mhm.
actually got one. They
They
got,
did. I was gonna ask you that. Did they know about the card? They got one.
they got one of those cards. And
Wow.
his father told him that it was like a wanted card, that if he called home or told anyone, they would both go to jail.
Oh,
So
wow.
Sam thought that he was wanted,
Mm.
so that the police were after him.
Mhm.
So he called his cousin, and she had the presence of mind. She's my hero, actually. Not for her, I don't know where either one of us would be today. She had the presence of mind to say to him, my husband's not home right now. It's kind of crazy to get into our development. Would you call me back in the morning? As soon as they hung up, she called the number on the card because she kept it.
Wow.
So the FBI went to her house and they developed this, I guess, coup, or I don't know whatever you call it. So um, in the morning when he called back, she said, it's really hard to get into my development, so my husband will come and pick you up.
Mm.
So they were to meet at the parking lot of a Popeyes in the morning before the Popeyes opened, so it would be empty.
Oh,
And Sam's dad had never met her husband, so didn't know what he looked like.
oh,
Yeah. So
oh.
um, they went to the parking lot. Sam's dad gets out of the vehicle. Sam locks the doors, and then they grab him. Um, they throw him in a car. They handcuff him. In the meantime, Sam is so scared. He sees
Right.
that happening to his father. He sees
Mm,
his father crying, and he's like,
mm,
"Oh my God, they're going to come and they're going to arrest me now."
mm,
So they go to the car, and
mm,
he has the doors locked, and he's afraid to unlock them.
mm.
What he sees are these giant FBI agents with FBI here thinking that he's going to get arrested. He
Oh,
sees them with guns, and
mm,
later we find out, because we stayed in touch with the one of the agents,
mm,
that it was just one agent who went over to the car, didn't have
mm,
any guns. But in Sam's mind, this little 10-year-old, he was so scared that it
mm.
was so traumatic for him. The recovery,
Yeah,
honestly, was actually more traumatic for him than his father taking him.
I can relate to that. I can
Yeah,
relate as a child who was abducted.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was awful for him. And
Mm,
that's actually one of the things I've been wanting to, or trying to work on, is
yeah.
making that recovery child centered,
Mhm.
not centered around apprehending the perpetrator, but child centered, to make it as easy and not traumatic for the child.
Right.
So they were able to recover Sam.
Mm,
And this was in Texas, and Sam and I was in New Jersey.
mm,
So I had actually been out hiking that day. I would go out into the woods where
mm,
nobody was, so I could
mm.
scream and cry as loud as I want, and
Oh,
it was pretty therapeutic for me. So
mm,
I would do that, but I didn't have a cell phone. I had a beeper that actually the police gave to me to use,
wow.
and it wasn't going off in the woods. I
Oh,
got home and I see that there's messages for me, and before I could even pick up those messages, my sister called me and says, call the police, my local
did she
detective."
know? She knew that he was
She knew
found?
because they were trying to find me,
Right,
so they
right.
called her.
Mm,
So I called and he said they found Sam.
mm.
I I was in shock.
Of
Really,
course.
this was 8.5 months, and
Mm,
now I know 8.5 months. For me, every minute was long. So eight
mhm.
and a half months was unbearable. But I
Yeah.
know so many hundreds of parents
Mhm,
who still don't even know where their children are,
mhm.
or who the children were missing for years, like you were missing for so
14
many
years.
years. Yeah,
14, 13, almost 14 years.
right. So I feel so grateful that it was only the 8.5 months. And I say only anyway. Um, so the detective said, stay where you are because he's going to call you. I'm like, oh my God. If anybody was in my home and they saw me, they would have thought that I'd lost my mind, because I was actually jumping on the furniture. I couldn't contain myself. I was so I had so many emotions just churning, and just it was I was in shock. I think I was really in shock. So
And you weren't sure, Abby, you weren't even sure if he was alive.
I
So
wasn't.
here, not only is he all I can't, and it's not just it's not the 8.5 months isn't the thing. It's the shock of the initial abduction, and then what to do, and then how to do it, and then the worry of whether they're alive or not, where they are, what's going to happen. I mean, all that trauma is huge and life altering, whether it's 3 days, 8 months, or 13 years. So wow. So
Yeah.
here I'm like wanting to jump for joy right now, and this happened in 1998, right?
This
Yeah.
was in 98. It was March 29th, 1998. And yeah, if you go back to the beginning when I first found out that he was missing, that morning I had gone to where Sam's dad was supposed to drop him off at the Y. I went there in the hopes that he would drop him off for camp. I remember
Mm,
sitting on this stone wall and waiting and watching as all the parents dropped off their children for day camp. And the
mm,
children would go on the bus, one after the other, kids I knew, parents I knew, and I would be sitting there waiting. And then the bus door closed and he wasn't there.
mm,
And
my heart.
that was one of the
Mm,
hardest moments
mhm,
of the, because then it was real. It was real. Who
mhm,
knew? I had no idea that parents did that. I had no idea that parents would take their children. And if they did, I thought it was for a good reason, to escape domestic violence, even though
mhm,
I've learned from adults who were abducted as children that that's not a good enough reason. But we can
mm.
go into that, in a later episode so people will
Yes,
understand that.
yes.
But I didn't know that people actually did that. And then, imagine not knowing where your
Mm,
child is. I don't know if there's anything, well, a bad outcome, yes, is
mhm.
worse. Uh,
But that not knowing, you didn't know. You didn't know. You didn't know anything. Had you heard of parental child abduction, family abduction before
I
this?
had never heard of it. Never.
Oh,
And if I had, it was maybe in a fleeting moment where it was like, they must have had a
right.
good reason. They had to have had a good reason.
Right?
Right? So,
Right.
they're escaping something or something bad is happening,
There's
but
some
to take
justification.
it just
Mhm,
out of pure control issues or
mhm,
narcissism, selfishness or,
mhm,
um, he's mine, he's,
mhm,
treating him like he's a possession,
mhm,
not a child that has a right to be in his life.
mhm,
Um, I never knew anything like that. Um, so back to, I can actually see where I was at the time and waiting for that phone to ring, and the phone rang and it was Sam. And as soon as he said hello, I knew he was in dire straits. He was not himself. I could hear the fear and anxiety in his voice because he
mhm.
was afraid I didn't want him.
Oh,
He
oh.
he was he was afraid that he was in trouble.
Hmm.
And so uh, I got on the next plane with the police detective from my town to
Hmm.
go to Texas to get him. And I remember, oh my gosh, I remember his name was Jan, the police detective. He came
Hmm.
and picked me up, put the light on his car, and he was driving so fast, I didn't know if I was gonna make it to the airport. It's like, "Oh my god." And then, so, um, we get to the airport, and we get inside, and I feel like I could run faster than my body could take me, and
Hmm.
I'm running through the airport, not even knowing where I'm going, and finally we get to the gate and we get on the plane, and um the stewardess comes by and he tells the story that we're going to get my son to the
Oh,
stewardess.
wow.
And
Oh,
so she brings us a bottle of wine. I said, I don't want And he whined. She said, well, I want to do something for you. What can I do? I said, please let me be the first one off the plane.
Yes.
So they moved us to first class,
Oh
and
my God.
they let us be the first ones off.
Oh my God. That's
I have a
incredible.
video of that, and if we can figure out how to add it,
Add it,
I want to,
definitely. We'll
yeah,
add it to the show notes, as I hear other podcasters say. So we're going to add it to the show notes.
yes.
Yes.
So I get
Joyous.
out in the terminal, and I had to go like this because I didn't know it, but the FBI had told the news to come.
Oh.
It was
Oh.
awful. It was awful because that should have been a private time for
Yeah.
Sam and I.
Mhm.
So, because I didn't know how he was feeling, I was a hot mess.
Of
I was
course.
so traumatized,
Of
from
course.
these 8.5 months, and they were all over. So the FBI made a deal. You can come, but don't talk to her. Well, it didn't matter. They were there with their cameras, their lights, like their boom microphones over our heads. It
Oh
was
my God. Where were you? Where was he? Like, where were you
in
guys?
the airport. At
Oh, it
that
was.
time, he was able to come to the gate. So that everybody was at the
Oh,
gate. So as soon as I came out into the
oh
terminal,
my God.
there they were.
Oh
Um,
my.
I actually had to go like this because I couldn't see anything. That's how bright the lights were.
Oh
All of a
my.
sudden, this child comes running to me and grabs me. It didn't feel like my son. I had to actually put it, just move him away a little bit so I could see his face. He had put on 30 pounds in 8.5 months from sitting in an apartment. He wasn't
Mm,
in school. He wasn't allowed to be with other children. He was
of
in this
course. That's
apartment eating junk food, and, he put on 30 pounds, and it was, I didn't know it was him. Found
wow.
out later, he ran to me because he thought he had to because the news media was there, right?
Oh,
Because he turned around and he waved at them. He was in
mm,
shock himself. He didn't know what was happening. And it actually impeded our healing. And I'm
of
not
course.
talking about a day, I'm talking about years. That
Mm,
should have been a very private moment with professionals there to help
mhm.
us reunite, and that's something too that I had been working on. And I hope to have the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, someone from there, to talk about what their family advocacy is doing to change that, to work with law enforcement, to work with the airports or the train stations and therapists, and to make sure that those are therapeutic moments, time.
Yes. Mm.
So I'm pretty passionate about that.
Oh my goodness.
It
I
was,
met my mother. I'm sorry.
yeah, no, it was awful.
Yeah.
So, um, first thing Sam does is he looks at me and he says, "You look terrible." Yeah. Then,
It's the
then,
time, kid.
yeah.
Yeah.
Then he saw the ring on my finger. I was wearing my mother's wedding band. Both my parents had passed,
Mm,
thankfully, because it would have been horrible for them if they were alive when this happened. They would not have been able to handle it emotionally. And
mm.
I wouldn't have been able to help them because I was a mess. So he
Right.
saw this ring and he grabbed my hand and he goes, "Did you get married?" I was like, "No, I didn't get married."
Mm,
Um, and so the police escorted us out. In the meantime, the damage was already done,
mm.
with the media being there. And yeah, it was a very hard time. He was scared. He was angry. He didn't trust me, because of all the things that his father had told him. And it was really a hard time. We He had to be interviewed by the FBI, and
Wow.
yeah, it was a hard time. So we
Wow.
flew back again. We were able to get first class seats because when we got to the airport, we weren't able to. They didn't have seats that we could sit next to each other. So
Wow.
law enforcement explained what was happening, and they put us in first class so we could sit next to each other.
Mhm.
Um, Sam's name had been changed, and he actually answered to the other name.
Wow.
Had I known then what I learned later from your peers, adults who were taken as
Yeah.
children, I would have let him say whatever he wanted to call himself,
Mm.
because it's such an identity rupture
Mm.
when, as you know, when a child is taken, everything is changed. Their name is changed. Who they are is changed. They're in a state of confusion and fright.
Mhm.
Um, I really wish I would have known. And that's one of the things too that I want to help parents whose children are missing and get them ready
Mhm.
for when the child is recovered, because you really have to step outside of yourself, put all your pain, everything aside, and just focus on the child and do
Mhm.
what is best for the child, even when it hurts you. Um, you have to put all that anger away
Mhm.
for the other parent, because it does not help the child. It hurts them so much if you're going to talk about the other parent, if you're going to degrade them, if you're going to do anything bad. And not only that, but you shut the door for your relationship with the child, because they're not going to trust that they can reveal their feelings to you. You have to allow them to talk about what it was like for them when they were missing. So, whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether it's both, you have to be that space for them if you want any chance of having an honest and close relationship with them, which I know you know, Sarah, um, only too intimately. And it's hard. It's not easy. And I don't know how I knew or how I was able to do this emotionally. I was able to do it. I have never said anything bad about his dad. Even to today, I let my son take the lead on that.
Mhm.
And if he whatever he wants to say. And honestly, I feel bad. I feel bad that I married him. I'm full of shame. Why didn't I see what kind of person he was before we got married? I was older. I was 35 years old. You'd think I would have known better, but he definitely did a good job of fooling me. He ruined my relationship with my older son, which
Mhm.
is we're still trying to repair even today. And a lot of damage was done, a lot. And I want to minimize that damage. I want to help other people. And um, so back to, Sam, and on our way home, the FBI agent drove us. She was actually wonderful on the New Jersey side. When we landed, she took us right away from the runway out a back door to her car. So we didn't even have to go through the terminal, because I had been so proactive on trying to find Sam that it was in the news, that
Right.
people knew from the news, that not the ones who came to the airport, but other news media, that he was recovered. So she was wonderful, and she really made it safe for us. So
Wow.
we drive home, and the whole front of our house was decorated. All
Oh.
of our neighbors, there were flowers, there were signs, there were
Mm.
everything. And, welcome home, Sam. And we're so glad you're home. And again, if I would have known then what I know now, I would have
Mm.
minimized all of that,
Mm.
because he was confused. He didn't know um, what was what he was feeling. He was scared.
Mhm.
And for everyone to tell him, you're in the right place, you're with your mom, you're where you should be. It was very confusing for him because, of course, even though he was afraid, he loved his father.
Mhm.
And, people around him were making him feel so confused. It almost made him feel like he was doing something wrong. And I didn't
Mhm.
even understand that at the time because I was so traumatized. And
Of
the poor
course.
kid, he came home to a hot mess. So there was so much healing that we really had to do. And the mayor came the next day with the fire engine. I mean, remember, we were in a town that was 1 square mile. So he
Right.
came with this fire engine. He came with a brand new spanking bike for Sam and this huge bouquet of flowers I couldn't even lift up. Took Sam and me through the town with this
Oh boy.
big banner on the fire engine that said, "Welcome home, Sam."
Wow.
And I mean, it was so overwhelming. And there was this, how they have these billboards in front of the public buildings that
Yes.
"Welcome Home, Sam" in front of City Hall.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was amazing, and but not good, not therapeutic, not helpful. Even though they thought what they were doing was so helpful, and I did appreciate everything, um, it was not helpful. I remember the FBI agent had me do a press conference the next day if and the only way I would do it is if they would agree not to try and interview Sam.
Right.
So I did the press conference without Sam. He was with my sister,
Mm.
and they were trying to get me to say that I was angry at his father and to make news, I guess. And I
Mhm.
said, I don't have the energy to be angry at his father. I need to concentrate on my son's healing. And I said
Mm.
to them, where were you when he was missing?
Mhm.
Why didn't you put in your newspapers and in your media that he was missing so that
Yes.
he could be found? Why are you here now after
Yeah.
he was found? I don't know that
Mm.
they appreciated that that much, but it was
Good
just,
for you.
yeah.
Yeah.
I said,
Yeah.
you have a whole page or more of obituaries. You
Mm.
could have a whole page of missing and
Yeah.
pictures of missing children. You could help, you could be heroes,
Right.
but they don't do that. I don't
Oh,
understand. They
right.
yeah, they want the notoriety. They want it to be,
Mhm.
something big. I remember the police officer the detective was so frustrated because he couldn't get the help of the media. I overheard him say one time on the phone to some outlet, I don't remember who it was, but what, you want me to stand naked at my desk? Will you do it then? It's like, I mean, that's kind of crazy, but
Amazing. No, but that's it. They want the drama. They want, the clicks now
yeah,
or the views and
yeah,
all of that.
yeah.
And that's a
So,
problem.
but
Oh,
it's taken us years to get to where we are today. And we've done presentations going back and forth between the parent's perspective and the child's perspective to therapists, to law enforcement, to, other audiences. And because it's very different,
yeah,
it's very different and both need to be heard.
yeah.
Um,
And bridge. We need to bridge the narrative so that we understand each other, you
exactly.
know,
Yeah.
too. And yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Abby, I just want to say, and I don't want to interrupt you, but I am in such awe because parents like you who are able through their own pain to see their children's perspective and see the children's pain in this way is so beautiful, and you sharing your story and being so open when you're going through the worst pain imaginable and the shame. I know so many parents who I've spoken with, including my own mom, who deal with a tremendous amount of shame. My father also dealt with some mental health issues. And hindsight is 2020. So it's very easy to look back and say, oh, I shouldn't have married him. I should have seen the signs and and all
Right.
of that. And we're so hard on ourselves as
Yes.
parents. I mean, I'm a mom myself, and all we want to do is protect our children.
Right.
So that shame can be debilitating. And I'm so glad you're talking about it, because nobody should feel shame about who they loved, and about bringing a child into the world with that person. And really, hindsight is 2020. It's easy to look back and say, oh, I saw the signs or whatever. You don't have that perspective when things are happening. Nobody would be expected to see all that. And I think we really need to talk about that in some ways too, because I feel like that shame carried over into our relationship when we reunited. My mother felt so sorry for what I went through. She took so much responsibility for it, that shame became a burden for us, for both of us. And I understand it. I mean, I have compassion for it. But I think that's one of the things we all need to talk about, or parents especially, but kids too. We deal with shame too. Why did we trust that parent?
Right.
Why did we do more? Why didn't we reach out to the police or to the other parent?
Right.
Were we ungrateful? Did we not love our missing the left behind parent enough?
Right.
So shame, I think, is a very big theme in this for both parents and children for different reasons. And I'm just, your story is so, um, it's so validating to me. My abduction was very long term. It was 13, 14 years, but all the elements of my story are in your story and in my mother's story as well.
Right.
And your perspective and your understanding and your openness and your warmth and your love for Sam and your desire, to really see what could be done differently so that you can help other parents and children through this. There's so much beauty here, Abby. I am so incredibly in awe of you. I loved you before this. I love you so much more now. And I can reveal to our audience that I was going to be interviewed first, just in the order of when we're
Right.
taping.
Right.
I have not been able to coherently come out with my story. Something has been blocking me, and I feel. And Abby just said today, this morning, said, "Hey, Sarah, do you want me to go first?" And I said, "Yes, please do that." And somehow now I feel so much more ready and able to tell my story when we tape me. So
Oh,
thank you
good.
for that too.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I am so overcome with so many emotions, most of all gratefulness, because I needed to hear from a parent. I need to hear all of your stories as parents, because it's been rough. It's been tough for me and my mother, even after all these years, to fully understand each other, and for me not to feel like I'm not enough for her, that I haven't been able to give her back the exact child she lost. So therefore, it's somehow not enough. And I feel like there's so much healing we can all do together with this, and just understanding and really empathizing with each other as parents and as kids and as family members, and the wider community, law enforcement, the mental health people, all of us understanding this in a deeper way is going to bring us so much further. So I don't know if you're done, Abby. I don't want to
That's
cut you.
no, that's okay. I mean, I don't know where to go from here. And there are things that I forgot to say, and things that I mean, so much went into those 8.5 months, and so much has gone in for the years following, and working on our relationship, and how this really ruined the relationship with my older son, and how painful that
Mhm.
is for me.
Oh, well.
We all kind of, when something happens to one child, we focus on that child.
Mhm.
Um, so the day that Sam went missing, my older son lost his brother for a time, but he also lost me too,
Mhm.
because I changed.
Mhm.
I changed so much. Our roles changed. My personality changed. I became someone I wasn't before. And while I was grieving, while I was filled with fear, and I wasn't able to see that my older son was going through a hard time. And it
Mhm.
kills me that that happened. When a family has a child who's sick, they concentrate on that child
Mhm.
to the detriment of the other children.
Yeah.
When a child is missing, they concentrate on that child to the detriment of their other children, if they have other children. And, it's hard to do everything. It's hard to know what to do in retrospect. It's, doing that shoulda, woulda, coulda dance.
Mhm.
It's easy, but when you're going through it, it's really hard. So, yeah, sorry,
Don't be
but it's pretty
sorry.
painful.
Of
Um,
course.
yeah, but I think this
I
is a good place to stop. What do you think? Yeah,
But let me just say one thing, Abby. I just want to say thank you for your vulnerability and openness about your relationship with your older son. And I, the one thing I know about you is the fact that you care as much as you do. And also keep in mind, do you know, I think that for my mom, she attributes absolutely everything to the abduction, but it's not, there's so much else.
yeah,
There's all these other experiences.
right,
There's, there's, there's so much else. There's genetics, there's life experiences, there's, the ebb and flow of life in all its glory and pain and all of
right,
it.
right,
So, and there's some things that we just, and you know this, that we can't control and that we can't orchestrate,
right,
and 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 we can't fix it all either, and
right.
you did
We
the
can't.
you
Hmm.
right, and you did the
Yeah,
best you could, and and I know that knowing you did the best you could and then some more. And so I just want to acknowledge all of that, so that what else could you have done differently? You were searching. It was 8.5 months of searching and of pain, and of course it affected your older son,
yeah,
but there was so much more. I mean, I'm sure you were still telling him you loved him, and it's so complex. So I just want to tell you that. So as a child who was abducted,
right,
and I know I can never be in your older son's shoes. uh, I I did have I do have a half brother who wasn't
right,
abducted,
right,
and it was hard for him too. And there's an inevitability to that. What are we going to do? You have a child with cancer, you have a
right,
child who was abducted, you have life comes at us,
right,
and then we have all we can do is do the best we can within that situation.
right. You're
Yeah,
right. Yeah. So
I
who's
think
the
we're in.
therapist here?
Yeah, let's take a 1 minute little roll from your playbook, dear Abby.
Oh,
This The bottom line is that this is an incredibly painful and tender. I mean, to me, the old me would have said, "Oh, 8.5 months,
right. Of
that's a
course.
breeze."
Yeah.
Absolutely not. I understand, and I've understood this for a very long time, both as a mother and as someone who was abducted and works with people who are abducted and works with parents and supports in every way that I can. It's not the length of time necessarily. It impacts and informs, but the trauma can be concentrated. I've had people who are missing for 3 days.
Yeah.
That trauma will sit with them forever.
Right.
That experience shaped their lives,
Sure.
changed their lives
Yeah.
forever. It's because, yeah, there's just so many. It's not just the length of time. It's not the length of time. It's the trauma. It's the
Right.
circumstances. It's the search. It's
Right.
the worry. It's
Right.
all the way that it changes all those
Right.
dynamics.
It's trying to get help when people don't take it seriously, and
Yeah.
yeah, and yeah,
Yes.
it's everything. It is.
Yes.
So. Yeah.
Thank you so much
Oh,
for being you, for sharing something so personal. You who are most often in the role of supporter and resource and connector and healer and all of that. Here you have shared with us your heart and your story
yeah.
and your soul, and I'm just in awe. And thank you
Oh,
so much.
thank
You're
you.
you're you are a hero to me.
Oh,
You really are a hero on every level, and all parents out there, gain strength and insight from this amazing woman
mhm.
who went through all this and has not said a bad word about her ex-husband, and has, and the love and the care for both of your children is just incredible and phenomenal and healing in itself, and
Thank
such a
you.
gift. Yes.
I feel the same way about you. And I want our audience to know that if you have any questions, please, I'm happy to answer anything. You can send it to our email address, which we have posted below. And I'm open to anything because I really want people to understand. I couldn't be more passionate about this. I want you I want you to understand that time is of the essence. I mean, Sarah just said even 3 days is too long.
Mhm.
And um, children have to be back in their homes. There's other ways to work things out. And no matter what the reason, and, there are people who feel that they do have valid reasons because they can't get help through the courts. I understand that. I do. Yet, in talking to survivors, I understand that there really is not a good reason. So,
There's not. I can attest to that.
yeah,
There's, as a child, there's not. You have to look at the bigger picture. It's just the damage that it does on so many levels, on trust, on
yes,
connection, on relationships, on the child's development.
yes,
Uh, it's life altering and unnecessary. That is such a mild word for something so huge.
right,
The it's there is I can hardly think of incidences where this is a must, that it's a must to abduct a child.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
from a home.
yeah. I mean, Sam
It's
was not in school the whole time. He didn't have friends to play with. He would have lost a whole grade, but when he came home, I was able to barter with one of the teachers at his school and do some work for her husband so she could tutor him so he wouldn't
wow,
be left back. And
wow.
but otherwise, I mean, that would have caused more damage to him, his self-esteem, his efficacy. Uh, so there's so many nuances that people don't even think of.
Yeah.
So to say that a child's okay because they're with the other parent, I hope that you have learned, that our audience, that that's a myth. That's not
Mhm.
true.
Yeah,
And we need your help in
mhm.
finding these children.
We
So
do, and in
yeah,
supporting families that go through this, families and
absolutely.
communities that go through this.
Yeah,
Abby,
yeah.
thank you so much
Thank you,
from my heart
Sarah.
to yours, and I am in awe, and thank you also for opening me up. I feel that now I'll be able to share my story with more
Good,
peace and equanimity.
good.
Thank you for opening up the door for me in that way. And just thank you for your beauty and vulnerability and strength. That mama bear. Oh boy.
Yeah,
Yes.
I became
Yes.
Mama Bear. I was actually, before this happened, I had a friend of mine from childhood who used to call me a marshmallow. Not just a marshmallow, but an effing marshmallow. And she doesn't
You?
call me that anymore.
Believe. Yeah, it is hard to believe. You found what was there, what was in there
You
within
find
you.
your strength. Yeah, you have to, because when there's nothing like fighting for your child. I remember
Mhm.
years later, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. It was like, that's fine. I'm not afraid. Cancer can't hurt me. I've gone through the worst with my child. I'm going to be
Wow.
fine. So,
Oh my God. I didn't even know that you went through that.
yeah.
You are amazing. And you almost got your kid on the Super Bowl monitor,
Yes.
and you got a couple of first class flights out of it too. I mean, just like the way that that you pushed and the universe answered. and you pushed with love, ultimately, with love and care.
I just want to say, one last thing is that, it's horrific that this happened to us. Yet our lives are so much better because of it. Really, it's given me a purpose. It's made my son stronger. I couldn't be more proud of him. He's married to a wonderful woman. He has one child with one on the way. He's gone back to school for his master's, and he's now a therapist and helping people who've been traumatized and children, which
Amazing.
I too, I wanted to be better for those that I help. So I went back to school at the tender age of 55 to get my bachelor's, which I never completed, and then went on for my master's, and am a social worker. So, and help children who've been traumatized. But, it's
Wonderful.
amazing how you learn things through my journey as a therapist for children. I was able to process some residual trauma that I felt from what happened with Sam. And I realized that I I was stuck in not being able to protect him, because with these children who I was treating, I could treat them for, be with them for maybe 50 minutes, an hour a week, but then I had to send them back to a parent
Hmm.
that was an offending parent. And
Ooh,
that
right to the.
really, it triggered in me that I was carrying with me these emotions that I could not protect my son. When, your child is born, you hold them in your arms and you make promises to them and you tell them, I'm going to protect you. I'm going to help you grow into a strong, independent person. And then when something like this happens, you can't fulfill those promises. You can't do it. So thankfully, I mean, sometimes it's good when something bad happens to you because you can learn from it. It's an opportunity
Right.
that maybe you wouldn't have had before. So it was an opportunity for me to work through, process through some pain. So
Wow.
yeah,
Wow. So powerful.
yeah,
And listen, like what we have to go through, we don't like we don't want these things to happen, but since unfortunately they happened,
yes,
we can turn lemons into lemonade. We have that possibility to do the best we can with what we've gone through,
yeah,
and make it meaningful, or make some meaning out of it by helping others and by
yes,
healing, really healing as best as we can.
true.
And you've gone beyond. You've like, wow, you've turned that mama bear into like a mama bear for the whole world, who of all of us who deal with family abduction and
Yeah.
issues like this.
Well, I'm looking forward to your story because we're going to hear the same from you about,
Yeah,
this is traumatic growth. We have both
yeah,
experienced traumatic growth, and
we
I'm
have.
grateful for that. So,
Amazing.
yeah,
Thank you so
thank
much,
you.
Abby.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Thank you
We'll
so
sign
much.
off here for now. Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Bye.
Bye for
Thank
now.
you.
Every week would like to highlight a missing child. And this week we are highlighting sweet Emmanuel Edgley, who has been missing for over 2 years. He's been missing since
Yeah.
June of 2023 from Fulshire, Texas. So he's now 12. And it looks like a possible associate is his dad, Christian Edgley, and there's a felony warrant for custodial interference that was issued just a few weeks after Emmanuel was taken.
Yeah.
And it's scary when it's this long. And I was reading, Abby, not to be too alarmist, but I was reading that there are a fair number of parentally abducted children that don't make it out alive because
Yes.
they're right, because there are, well, I don't know what
Yes.
those are called, crimes of, I don't, like when, like murder suicide, like
Oh, there is a name
there's
for
a
them.
term, right?
Yes.
There's a term for it.
Oh my gosh, I forgot.
I forgot to
We'll
share.
let the audience know, or they can let us know. Yeah,
Yes, exactly.
yeah,
But and let's hope that he's physically safe.
yes,
And as I can attest to, it's never ideal to be parentally abducted. It causes so much chaos and loss and fear and confusion. So let's hope that everything goes well for Emmanuel and his family.
yes.
Um, People can contact the Fort Bend County Sheriff's Office in Texas if there are any sightings at 281-341-4665. You can also scan the QR code that's listed here or call 911 or 1-800 The Lost or the website, which address I always forget. Abby, what is it again?
Missingkids.org. And I just want to say Emmanuel is so precious. Look at his eyes. I mean,
He's
you
so
can't
beautiful.
mistake those eyes. You
No,
definitely remember them.
absolutely. And two
Yeah.
years later, they're probably even more beautiful and prominent. He's
Yes.
gotten bigger. So yeah,
Yes.
so thank you for allowing us to highlight the plight of missing children and their families.
Yeah.
And yes, thank you and have a great day,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you.